tuning in to Emerge's celebration of Black women leaders. I'm Melissa Watson Ward, the Executive Director of Emerge South Carolina, and I'm thrilled to be here to celebrate Columbia City Councilwoman Tameika Isaac Devine. Councilwoman Isaac Devine, an Emerge South Carolina alumni, is the first African American woman to serve on City Council and the first African American to be elected at large in 2002. Tameika is a 2020 Emerge South Carolina Boot Camp alum, and I'm excited to speak with her today as we here at Emerge celebrate the Black women leaders who are continuing to make and live history as they lead in their communities. So, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Melissa. And thank you for all that you do with Emerge to make sure you're inspiring and providing the great tools for more women to run, win, and lead.
Thank you. Thank you. And speaking of inspiring, what inspired you to serve your community and run for office?
So I've always been very involved in the community. My parents are very community oriented, always volunteering. And so I grew up just that was the way of life. My mom is a Delta. Of course, as growing up, the daughter of a Delta, community service was in my blood. And so, I can't even remember, at early ages, I was out there doing stuff. So being involved in community was always part of it. But as I got older, I went away to college. I came back here to Columbia for law school. And while in law school, I got involved in the community, just using my legal interests. I was working for domestic violence victims, volunteering at Sister Care, our local shelter, advocating for women who were victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And then right after I was graduate law school, I started prosecuting domestic violence and sexual assault cases on the statewide level. And through my work, I saw the needs of my community and really knew that there needed to be just another voice. So I got interested in volunteering for the city, and then that just naturally led to me wanting to offer myself to serve, to make the changes I wanted to see in my community.
Awesome. And your service actually made history. So you made history as the first Black woman to ever serve on Columbia City Council. What does it feel like to be the first in your, to hold your office and to break this important barrier in representation? And why is representation important?
Well, when I first decided to run, I actually had no idea, it had not occurred to me that it would be a history-making election when I won. And then a few folks pointed it out to me. And I was like, wow, I saw, like I mentioned, I saw that there was a void at City Council, saw their need, and realized that that had something to do with the need. There were Caucasian women on council, and they served great, but there was no Black females on council. There was no one actually my age when I first ran for City Council. There was no one my age on council. And so not seeing that representation up there led to me feeling like there was a void and a need that needed to be filled. When I ran, I realized that I inspired so many folks. And so I thought that is very rewarding to inspire other young women, especially young women of color, to see that they can actually run for office. They can, be in leadership positions. They don't need to always have a title to actually work. And so that's why it's really important. Representation is important because we bring unique views and experiences to the table. And if those views are not at the table, then you have to understand when, people make rules and laws that don't affect us because there's nobody actually speaking for us at those tables.
Mm-hmm. Yes, representation does matter. And through your work on council, you've done a lot of things, number of things, including working with youth violence prevention and empowerment programs. And we know that you're particularly passionate about uplifting women and young people in the community. See that all the time in the work that you do. So why are these issues so important to you, and how do these programs contribute to the overall health of your community?
Mm-hmm. These issues are important to me because I know that the strength of our community is based on the strength of our people. Mm-hmm. And when people are hurting, when people have issues, when there's violence in our community and people don't feel safe, then that leads to other issues. And so for me, it's important to work on these issues, but also work on other issues that people bring me in the community and elevate it. Because if we're all adding to the dialogue and the conversation, the solutions are better. And then of course, as a mom, I understand the importance of having women, especially moms in the community, empowered to make change in their community. We women, we work, we look at things differently, and I think that that's why we need to be empowered in order to make the real change in the communities that we want to see make that change happen.
Yes, yes. We know here at Emerge that women get things done, especially women in elected office. In your personal life, you have the background as an attorney. In your current role, you work to reorganize the city's court systems and you liaise between council and municipal judges. What other changes would you like to see in the criminal justice system?
Wow, and it's all ever evolving. And so, one of the things I did first was really reorganizing the court system at the city, because actually I was the only attorney on council, or only person on council who'd ever even been in our city court. And so when people are frustrated with, the ticket system, or if they're a victim of a crime, or we have a quality of life court that talks about code violations, when people interact with our court and our council members who make the rules had not even been in there, it needed some redoing. So I did that. But over the years, with my legal background, I've worked to establish a domestic violence court. So the city of Columbia has a dedicated domestic violence court so that survivors do not have to be in a courtroom full of a whole bunch of people retelling their story. I also just recently started up a homeless court, which was the first in our state, and now some other cities are patterned after us. And what that does is it takes our unsheltered citizens who may be arrested for vagrancy, loitering, public intoxication, indecent exposure, things that are just routinely done for people who are unsheltered. It helps them divert their charges into a diversion program to help get them into provide services that are provided to help them get off the streets. And so that's really important. And right now I'm working with our chief judge to look at other restorative justice models, because we do know that if we can empower our communities and we can have a criminal justice system that supports our community instead of penalizes and helps people keep going back and forth into the system, our whole community is better.
That's amazing work. Thank you for that. And speaking of a lot of work to get done, we know COVID is a real thing here in the community. And COVID has had a devastating impact in South Carolina, especially in Black and Latinx communities. As a member of City Council, you're on the front lines of helping your community recover. What does that recovery look like?
Wow. So, we have been working, in COVID. We're almost at a year. I don't think anybody necessarily thought it'd be this way. And our city, I have to say, we have led from the beginning. I mean, we were the very first ones to pull together a coordinating council and pull together health providers and business leaders and others to talk about our response. So our recovery has focused on, I tell people, it's educating folks, empowering folks, and then helping with the economic recovery. So we've educated people with the science, strict facts. What is COVID? How do you prevent COVID? How do you get a test? How do you get vaccinated? So making sure that we're having information about that. And then we have empowered folks to really make decisions. We do have a mask ordinance, and we have worked really hard to make sure that people understand how do you prevent or at least lessen the ability exposure for you to get COVID. And then the economic empowerment and recovery part has been, we were the very first city to utilize our funds to actually, our general fund budget to actually give loans and grants. Actually, I won't say loans, grants to our small businesses, especially small businesses of color, our barbershops, our beauty shops, our nail salons, folks who didn't necessarily have the data to get the PPP loans. We were able to give them grants from the city, so that we've been investing in keeping our businesses open. And so as we continue out of the pandemic, I think it's very important that we continue to not only help people with the immediate issues of, again, testing and vaccinating and educating people, especially so the people of color who might not feel comfortable with the vaccine get it. But I think also our bigger part of the recovery will be really addressing the systemic disparities in our community that were exacerbated by COVID. Financial recovery and economic instability of our families, the lack of affordable housing, support for small businesses. All of those things are bigger issues that will be long-term things that we've got to think about how do we react to that and adapt to that in light of COVID-19.
Thank you for that. And thank you for leading the way on this and doing that hard work around COVID in the community. I'm sure that it's much appreciated, all the resources that you've been able to bring to the community to help lessen the impact of COVID. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And so we kind of switch gears to talk a little bit about women running for office. You know, we know that last year we saw record numbers of Black women run for office, a trend that is likely to continue in election years to come. Why do you think more Black women are stepping up to claim their seat at the table? And how can we ensure that Black women are empowered to launch their own campaigns?
Wow, that's an awesome question. And I would say, Black women, I mean, we're no stranger to hard work. We're no stranger to working in our communities and understanding the needs in our communities. What I think is that you find more and more folks who are now realizing that, we have the power to organize in our communities, to get people to the ballot box. But so many times we do that and did that for other candidates who didn't always bring our issues to the forefront. And so, again, it's about that representation and having that seat at the table. It doesn't mean that our ideas are necessarily better than others, but they're different and they need to be at the table in order to be fully explored to support our communities. So I think that's why you find a record number of Black women who have always been doing the work, but really now want to do the work in a more elevated position by being able to be in a position to make those policy decisions, to be able to make the changes that they want to see in their community and not wait for others to make them for them.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. How has the Emerge Network been helpful to you, both as you run for office and now in the role that you're currently serving?
Well, it's funny, and I'll say this, Melissa, and I really want people to hear this. So, I've actually been an elected official for almost 20 years. I know I was like 10 years old when I was elected. But seriously, I've been here almost 20 years. I was the youngest person elected when I was first elected. And so I have run 5 very successful citywide campaigns. And so, when I learned about Emerge wasn't around when I first ran. So I actually had to figure it out myself. I had to do it all myself. And gratefully, I was very successful at it. But when I learned about Emerge, when Emerge came to South Carolina, I said, this is something that I think I'm very big on personal and professional development. And so I was like, this is something that I think that even though I've done it before, I need to hear different perspectives. I need to learn more. And I will tell you, when I took boot camp, I was floored. I am now a candidate for mayor of the city of Columbia, announced 2 weeks ago. And I am utilizing the skills, the network, the information that I got in that boot camp. Even though I've run citywide 5 times before and run very successfully, it's just different being able to have access to the resources and information that Emerge provided me as I run for this, bigger opportunity. It's the same demographics, but running a city council race and running a mayoral race are different. And I know that I am ready for this race because of the resources I got through Emerge.
Awesome. That's great. I'm glad that Emerge has been able to be a resource for you and for many women running across the state and across the nation. What advice would you have for a woman who's looking to run for office?
Wow. What I would tell any woman that's looking to run for office is, first of all, really educate yourself about what the seat that you're running for does and make sure it fits and aligns with your values and the changes you want to make. I have to say, I know so many people who run for office and they get in there and they are actually surprised that they can't do the things that they said they were going to do because that's not what their seat does. So understand what, research what the seat does and, and the changes you want to make and make sure those align. Then I would say also talk to people who are currently serving. It is difficult to serve, especially as women. We're no stranger to hard work, like I said before, but a lot of times, in addition to serving, we are running our households, we're being mom, wife, community leader, and there's a lot of hats, and we can do it. But I think sometimes women have an unrealistic expectation on what it takes to serve. Most elected officials, we don't make a whole lot of money. So you're in this truly for public service and you don't get compensated for it much at all. And so you really have to truly understand, how are you going to continue to support your family in your service level, and how are you going to be able to make the changes? And then after that, my last piece of advice is say, just do it. Don't wait for someone to ask you. I didn't wait for somebody to ask me the very first time. I actually had people who said, well, maybe you shouldn't run. This one, I've been here five terms. I'm running for mayor. I have lots of folks who are excited, but I have some folks who are like, well, are you sure that you can take on being mayor after I run this city for almost 20 years? But I think that, I think that people still, unfortunately, minimize women. And so don't wait for somebody to ask you. If it's in your heart, if it's in your spirit, if God is giving you the provision to get it done, just get out there and run, and then tap into resources like Emerge to help make it happen.
Thank you for that. I like that. Don't wait for someone to ask you. That's important. Yes, we need more women running for office, and thank you for that advice for them. And thank you for your time. We know that serving as councilwoman is a busy job, and serving as now running as mayor is very busy. So thank you for the time that you've given us today. And thank you to everyone else for joining us for Emerge's celebration of Black women leaders. Subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow up on social for more updates from our alumni and team. And thank you.
Thank you.